welcome back to RHD Godzilla. So today we're going to be putting all the fluids back in the car. So far we have drained all the fluids, we have pulled the motor, pulled the transmission, pulled the radiator, pulled everything out of the engine bay, did some cleanup on the engine, the transmission, a bunch of different parts around the car, cleaned up a lot of wiring issues, or maybe not issues, but just cleaned up some wiring to make sure there are no issues. Put the motor back in, kind of put everything back in, and we were about 97% done. The other 2%, 2 of the 3% that we have left to do is putting fluids back in the car. So when it comes to maintenance and fluids and all that stuff, the most important thing you can do for your car to make it last is maintain it, which would be changing oil on time, flushing your power steering every, whatever your manual recommends, sometimes 60,000 miles, 100,000 miles, it just depends on your vehicle. It'll be in the manual. Transmission fluid, make sure we change that at the correct intervals. Newer cars say they're, you don't ever have to do it. However, I don't know if I buy into that too much, but that's personal opinion. And then, of course, flushing your radiator and your cooling system out per scheduled in your manual. So we've got all that right here. The oil takes 6.1 quarts dry. What is dry, you ask? Dry is when you have nothing in your engine, nothing in your oil filter, nothing in your oil cooler. There is no oil in the engine at all, or very minimum oil. Which is where I'm at right now, because if you remember, we pulled the oil cooler off. We, of course, cleaned that up. We, of course, took the oil filter off. We took the oil pan off. The engine sat there for almost a month and drained, basically, just not intentionally, just because we were working on the car, and so there was no oil in that car. So that's what dry is. So when it's not dry, it varies depending upon each make, model, and all that stuff. But with it dry, it's 6.1 quarts. Next thing up is the power steering, getting the fluids put back in that. The RX-7 takes automatic transmission fluid. From the factory, they say Dexron 2, which I don't even know if you can get that anymore. I could be wrong on that, don't quote me. But I'm using Dexron 6, which is the newest one out there. It probably will take most of these. I don't think it's going to take both quarts. I think it's like 1.5 quarts or 1.8 quarts or something like that. But either way, if you're going to do it, grab 2 quarts. That should be enough. If not, we will find out shortly. Transmission, I'm using 80-90 weight Lucas transmission fluid or gear oil. So it takes 2.6 quarts of this. So I got 3 bottles of that, which will give me a little extra, because filling transmission sometimes is a pain in the butt. You can spill a little bit here or there, but nonetheless, you shouldn't, but it does happen. So 3 quarts. The cooling system, I got the jug of coolant for that. That should cover all our fluids as far as what we have drained out of the car. The rear diff, I'm not going to do it because it was done a few years ago and there's not a whole lot of miles on the car, so it's pointless. It's a waste of money and time just to drain that, to fill it back up with clean fluid, just because that's what's already in there is clean fluid. So anyways, we're gonna do that. We've done a lot of stuff on the car. We've talked about the deflection on the belts, set that up. If you look at one of the previous videos, we set that, I showed how to look at that and make sure the belts are properly done. So we won't have to do that. Spark plugs we put in, I don't know, a couple videos ago. Spark plugs got put in only because it was convenient. They're not in a very good location. Well, they're not in a very convenient location, I should say. So, but yeah, so as far as fluids, this is what we're doing. Okay, so first thing is oil. So you will need a funnel, a clean funnel. Make sure you clean your funnel out. You don't want to put fresh oil in there and your funnel's dirty and a bunch of dirt and debris and stuff goes down into your motor. You don't want to do that. A 16 mil and a wrench. That's it. That's all we need to do the oil. Really, may not need the wrench. The only reason I'm using it is because I'm gonna go down and just to verify that the oil plug is tight. But I tightened it before we put the motor in, but I just want to go back and check as we do this just to make sure there's no issues, because I don't want to dump brand new oil onto the floor. So we're gonna start on that, get the oil filter, and we'll be done. We'll be done with that piece of it. Okay, after climbing underneath here, I forgot that I had, like I always do, had marked this. So I know that this is tight because I have marked it with my paint pen. So the whole point of this is, one, shows that you've tightened it down to spec. Also, if the bolt or nut moves, not just the oil pan, but anywhere else that you mark on the car, if it moves, those lines won't line up. So you'll know that, hey, there might be an issue to check it. So always make sure you take a little pen and just swipe that, or paint pen, and just swipe that, nail polish, whatever you got. You can usually pick those paint pens up pretty cheap on Amazon for, you know, $5-6 for a pack of 2 or 3 of them. So make sure you do that. So the oil is ready to go back in the engine, thankfully. Alright, so now we're going to go and take the oil cap off. And I tend to always like to clean the oil caps. This one's clean, but I'm going to go ahead and clean it up a little bit more. Just get a little bit of spray and then wipe it down real good. Just gets any dirt and debris off it. And then I always do it first, just because it gives it a chance to dry while we're putting oil in. It gives it just a chance to dry off and that. So yep, so that's that piece of it. We're gonna go ahead and get the oil put in now. Okay, so my funnel didn't work, but I forgot I have a couple of these jugs like this that I typically will use for the cars. I got one for the Skyline, one for my truck, and one for the RX-7 here. Cool thing about these are, you know, you can see how much oil you have in there, so you can measure it out properly if you need to. The only bad thing is I had to kind of mark these with a black Sharpie or whatever, just so you could see them, because they used the white, or they didn't really color the numbers or that, but that ain't a big deal. Either way, these work pretty good. So we'll go ahead, and you can get them at Walmart or Amazon for, I don't know, 10-15 bucks. All right, so we've got the oil in. We're gonna go and put our cap back on. Clean that up a little bit, and that is it. The oil's in the car, filter's on the car. So now we can move on to putting the transmission fluid in. Okay, so now it's time to do the transmission fluid. So we got the 80-90 gear oil. We got 3 quarts of it. It's going to take 2.6, I believe it was. So to do that, I have there's a couple ways you can do it. You can do a gravity, where you hold the bottle up, let the gravity take and fill it from the top, or you can do it from underneath with one of these little fluid pumps, these transfer pumps. You can get these at Harbor Freight for, I don't know, maybe 10 bucks at most. I think I got this one with a coupon there for like 5 bucks. So I went ahead and picked it up to use for this, so it's a clean one. You always want to make sure when you are doing your transmission fluid that you are able to get the fill plug out. You always remove that fill plug first, because if for some reason you drain that, you use the drain plug, you drain it, and then you can't do your fill plug, then you're kind of screwed. It's going to be a little bit more of a headache or a bad day on that. So you always want to do your fill plug first, take it out. That way you make sure you're able to actually fill the fluid before you do your drain plug. So just a word of advice. Anyway, so we're gonna get set up, get back underneath the car, and get the transmission filled up. Okay, so one of the first things we're gonna do is make sure that bottom drain plug is tight. It is a 24 millimeter. You also need your ratchet. Also looking at the torque specs, the fill plug should be 18 to 29 foot-pounds, and the drain plug is 29 to 43 foot-pounds. So we'll get our torque wrench out as well to do that. Need a little bit of spray to kind of clean off that bottom cover, and of course, like I said, our pump and the fluids. So first thing we're gonna do is go down there and tighten up that drain plug, make sure it's tight, which I believe it's loose because it's been dripping a little bit here and there, so I think it's loose. Get that tightened up, and then we'll come back and we'll get all of our stuff to go back underneath there and get started. All right, so we're underneath the car, and we're gonna go ahead and make sure this drain plug is tight. Try and clean it up a little bit more. So it was definitely not tight, which it doesn't have to be super tight. Alright, so there's that. So now the other drain plug is right here, and the fill plug is going to be right up top there. So I don't know if you can see that. So this would be the drain plug, which we never touched. These two right here will be the fill plugs. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and torque down the drain plug. Here it's torque spec on it's 29 to 43. So I got mine set to 33. I figured I'll do it there. If I have a leak, I'll tighten it a little bit more. All right, so it is tight. It is at 33. So done with that. So next it would be to just verify that the drain plug up here is tight, which it should be because I never removed that one. And then the fill plugs, making sure that those are good to go. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take out, so what I'm gonna do is take out this plug and this plug. So this one is a fill plug. This back one that's kind of up a little bit higher, this one is an inspection plug. So you'll fill in this one until the fluid gets to the bottom of this one, and you'll kind of seep out a little bit. So all you gotta do is get a 14 and then just start taking those off. All right, got the two plugs out, so I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of give them a quick spray to clean them up. That should be good. Let's get this one. Trying to do this one-handed. All right, and so now we can go ahead and start kind of prepping this thing to be filled up. So everything looks good up there. So we're gonna fill in this hole. This is the inspection one, or the one that tells you fill to the bottom of this, and it'll kind of run out a little bit once it's full. You also want to make sure that the car is level, which it is for the most part. We're pretty level in here. So once it gets to this line full, you're gonna fill. You're gonna tighten that back up, and then you'll probably put just a hair bit more in there to compensate for what leaked out, but not by much, just a tiny bit. Okay, so I got the hose in this top one here, running down to the pump, which is right here, and then into the bottle, which is right there. So I'm just gonna start filling this thing up, and I'll be right back as soon as it gets to be full. Okay, so I now have 2 full quarts in there, or pretty close to it anyways. So I'm getting ready to go into the third one. So let's see if we can. It should be 2.6 if you keep an eye out for this hole right here. Where am I at? Right there. You should see it leak out once it's full. All right, so you can see it dripping out now. So it is full. So now I gotta get this drain plug so it doesn't continue to leak. All right, so I should slow it down for a minute till I can get this nice and cleaned up.
And I'll probably put just a little bit more in. There we go. All right, so just a little bit more into it. And then I will take this hose down and put it into one of these containers for now. Just put it kind of out of the way for a minute. All right, so now we got our transmission is full. We just have to tighten all that back up. But as you can see, is once it got full, it started to leak out of this hole here. That's how you know it's full. You tighten that back up, and you don't have to, but you know, some did leak out, so I just put just a tiny bit, you know, another pump, I guess you could say, of the fluid back into there, and done, just to make sure it has enough in it. So I'm gonna tighten those two bolts, the two bolts up there, the drain plugs, get those tightened up, and that'll be it for the transmission fluid. All right, so now that the drain plugs are back in, I'm gonna go ahead and just do a little bit of spraying, kind of clean that area up a little bit. And the reason for that is if there is a leak, which hopefully there's not, but if there is, if it's nice and clean, you can, one, you can tell that there's a leak, and number two, sometimes they can help you find out where the leak is coming from. So you just want that to be as clean as you can make it. So, but all right, well, that is it. That is it for putting the transmission fluid in. So now we're gonna go to the power steering fluid and get that taken care of.
Okay, so now the next step is going to be taking and filling up the power steering reservoir. Like I said earlier, it uses automatic transmission fluid, or ATF fluid. Dexron 6 is what I'm using, this right here. You can get it at O'Reilly's, Walmart, wherever you want to get it from. I'd rather have the car running to do it all the way, but once I get the car running, we can bleed the system, get all the air out of the system. But for now, we're going to fill up the reservoir and go from there. So that shouldn't take too long. All you need is a funnel, fluid, and really that's it. So let's get this thing filled up. All right, so this right here is the dipstick that tells you if it's full or not. Obviously it's empty because we have nothing in there. We'll get this thing cleaned off, stick our funnel in. Make sure, once again, make sure your funnel's nice and clean, and then we will fill it up till the reservoir is full. Hopefully, I've never drained or filled it from empty. Hopefully it'll drain down into the hoses and fill all that up, and then we'll just have to bleed whatever little bit of air is in there. But we'll see what happens with it. Okay, so the reservoir only took about half a quart, a little over half a quart. So I'm gonna go into the car, turn the steering wheel both ways, kind of see if I can get that to drain. We're leaking fluids here, of course. All right, so that'll work for now. I'm not gonna fill it up anymore. Not yet, anyways. Get that cleaned off. Clean off this the dipstick here, and that'll be it for that for now. Once we get it started, we'll bleed this system a little bit different, or a little bit better, I should say. So that is it for, at least for now, for the power steering fluid. All right, so now it's time to do the cooling system. It'll at least fill up the radiator. So what you'll need is a jug of coolant of your choice. I like Prestone. I've had good luck with it. So you'll need that. You'll need 2 gallons of distilled water. Really, you could probably get away with just 1, but I always buy 2 just in case some spills. It's like $1, so it's not that expensive. Make sure you get distilled water. Don't use tap water. Don't use drinking water, any of that stuff. Distilled water doesn't have any contaminants in it. You want to keep all contaminants out of your cooling system for it to be more efficient. And then a funnel of some sort. I like this here. You can get this at, I think I got this at Advanced Auto years, 5, 6, 7 years ago, whatever. But you can get them at Autos or Harbor Freight, and that I'm sure AutoZone carries them in other parts stores. But I'll leave a link for this in there. Basically, how this works, and I'll show you here in just a second, is you get a bunch of these adapters right here for different types of filler necks. And then this one here just happens to be the one that works on the RX-7. So what you do is this side goes down, goes like that, and this sits on top of it. Then you mount this, or you screw this down to your where your radiator cap would go, or your expansion cap, wherever you fill it on your car. That seals it, and then you can fill this piece of it here with coolant water, whatever you got. And then you can slowly let it go in there, or you can just let it go, let the car take it. And it also will kind of burp the system, get all the air out of it. So this is a great tool to use. I'll set this up here in just a second. So when it comes to the coolant, on the back of it, I don't know if the camera will focus on it or not. It may, we'll see. But you can do 56-44 coolant to water ratio, which will protect you for -50. So, and then boiling would be 268. I'm probably going to do just a 60-40, not because I'm worried about the cold or anything. It's just, it just works for me, I guess. So probably do 60-40. I shouldn't use up all this. I'll probably use all this, but once again, it's all your preference on how you want to set it up. And plus, if it's winter time, maybe a little bit more coolant than water. Also, the RX-7, it holds, I think it's like 9.1 liters or something like that. It equates to about just over 2 gallons of water, so, or coolant is what the capacity is on it. So we'll get this thing filled up, at least the radiator. Once we get it started, then I'll be able to fill it up all the way, do the cooling system, check for leaks, all that stuff. But for now, we're just trying to get it filled enough to where I could probably technically start the car, but I just want to have it in there ready to go. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is fit this cap onto where I'm going to fill it. All right, so that's on there good, nice and solid. And then I'll take this, put this like this, and I may have to end up filling it over here by the radiator as well, but we'll see how this works out. The good thing is if this here doesn't drain enough, I can always put this little cork in here and then move that over to here. So first things first, like I said, I'm probably gonna do 60-40. Yeah, that should work. I'll kind of support this a little bit. Okay, so we got this in there. It's I probably got it closer to like 70-30, but that's all right. So you just pull this out. You can see some of it bubbling up. It's letting some of that air out of the system. So I took the lid off the radiator, which allowed it to push out some of that air. So we'll fill this thing back up again. Do that right there. So basically that's it. Then once the car starts, of course it'll heat up, thermostat will open, it'll start pushing that air around, and it will push the air out of here because this is the highest point of the cooling system. So it'll push the air out of this. We won't even have this uncovered at that time, but and then the cooling system will be bled. But I gotta wait till I can start it, which should be coming up soon. So let's get on to the next thing. All right, so that's probably it for this video for right now. But we did get all the fluids filled. We've got the oil filled. We got the filter put on. We got the transmission fluid put in. We got the power steering put in, and we got the coolant filled. So the only things we got to do kind of to finalize that is we do need to bleed the system of air for the power steering, and then also the cooling system needs to be bled as well. So those two we'll do while the car is running. Once it starts up and that, I'm gonna go over a couple little checklists that I got that I've kind of come up with before I start the car, just to make sure I don't run into any issues or forget to hook something up or not have something connected or have something connected that I shouldn't. So I'll do that, and then hopefully you can get this thing started up. So yeah, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to getting this project done. I do have some other projects to work on the Skyline, as well as same as a little bit more to do on this. But I appreciate you watching, and thank you.